Hi, I'm Herman van Papendorp and I head up investment research and asset allocation at Momentum Investments. In the previous edition of Minutes with Momentum, I discussed our asset allocation process that ultimately determines our asset class positioning throughout Momentum Investments client portfolios. I also mentioned that we distinguish between two types of asset allocation, namely longer-term strategic asset allocation with an investment horizon of up to 10 years and also shorter-term tactical asset allocation with an investment horizon of 12 to 18 months. Today I would like to discuss our scenario views that currently underlay our longer-term strategic asset allocation process. We've identified three global macro scenarios that are likely to play out over the next decade, namely our base case, called Muddle Through, to which we've attached a 60% probability, our best case, called Reflation, with a 25% probability, and our worst case, called Deflation, with a 15% probability. The overriding difference between these three global macro scenarios relates to the ultimate effectiveness of global policy measures in restoring global macro variables back to their pre-global financial crisis levels. In our base case Muddle Through scenario, policy measures are only partially effective in pushing global growth, inflation and interest rates back towards pre-global financial crisis levels, but they never attain these levels. In our best case Reflation scenario, global policy measures are fully effective in getting global growth, inflation and interest rates back to their high levels that were in place pre the global financial crisis. In our worst case deflation scenario, policy measures are totally ineffective in stimulating demand in the global economy to get levels back to where they were pre the global financial crisis. Unsurprisingly, these three scenarios have very divergent implications for asset classes. In our base case Muddle Through scenario, we expect real returns globally to be the best in emerging market equities, in South African bonds and South African listed property, with the weakest asset classes being global cash and global fixed income. In the deflation scenario, which is our worst case, we see the best returns coming from global fixed income and South African bonds, with all the equity asset classes giving the worst returns. In our best case reflation scenario, the so-called growth assets perform the best. These are all the equity asset classes, emerging market equities, developed market equities and South African equities, as well as South African listed property, with the weakest returns coming from global fixed income and global cash. We then use these scenario outputs within an outcome-based investment framework to construct client portfolios that have the highest likelihood of actually attaining client goals in terms of returns as well as risk appetite, regardless of which of these scenarios pan out.